Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited to record this today. I have my window open. It's officially fall weather here in New York City. At least I hope it was 80 degrees like yesterday, but either way, I'm really excited. And I was just thinking, it's just like that crisp fall air. I was telling someone I haven't had fall in 3 years living in San Francisco, and they told me that San Francisco is fall all of the time. And maybe it has the 60-degree-ish fall weather, but it's just different when the season changes and the leaves change, and all of a sudden there's just fall things everywhere. That didn't exist in San Francisco. So I'm so excited about that. And I'm even really excited for winter. But either way, I'm getting carried away, but I'm just really excited. And so I'm also excited about today's episode, which is 3 reasons you might not be going all in on your goals. And I thought this episode was really important to share because I've just been having a lot of conversations lately. And a lot of what I've been talking about has been going all in, given my course Audacious, which is all about just you literally going all in, you becoming that audacious version of yourself who has the confidence, the self-worth, the self-trust to fully go after what she wants. Whatever it is, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a new career, whether it's moving abroad, I don't know, whatever you're wanting, it's going all in on that. And so in having those conversations, cultivating that conversation, I've also been talking a lot with my clients about it. And, I might do a pop-up little workshop around this, but I noticed that a really big fear that a lot of my clients have is that it's this nagging fear of, what if I never go big? What if I don't go all in? What if I get stuck here? What if I live life without ever going big and I always feel like I'm playing small and I never fully put myself out there? Or what if I'm wasting time and letting it all pass by without going all in, without going big? What if I never get over this fear? And this really nags at them. It really gets to them. And I've noticed it's just a commonality because so many of my clients, so many of the women that I work with are just unapologetically ambitious. They really have these big desires, these big goals for themselves. They know they're made for more. They know that they can go big. They know they can do incredible things. But that doubt really slows them down towards fully going after it. And so it just pops up. And I find that it usually pops up for them when they first come to me, yes, but after prolonged periods of either just being sick of their own shit, of overcomplicating things, or of they're almost so uncomfortable by playing small that it's more uncomfortable to play small and continue playing small than it is to go bigger. And something I've seen as well, it's just interesting. I've heard the word flailing a lot when they talk to me about this. So they feel often like they've just been flailing, which is not true. They're usually achieving quite a lot, but it's almost like they're achieving or succeeding within their comfort zone. And that's what I would really call it, is that the women who I find really want to go all in, really want to go bigger, but haven't done it to their fullest capacity, they are still successful. You are likely still really fucking successful, but you've been succeeding within your comfort zone. And I think that happens a lot. I actually caught myself this morning journaling about it. And I was saying that I was saying just what I said earlier. Me playing small or like succeeding within my comfort zone is what I'll actually say. I've been succeeding within my comfort zone the last couple months, and it's uncomfy and I want to get out of it. That's what is probably happening with you. You're succeeding within your comfort zone. You're chugging along. You're not operating at your fullest potential, or maybe living as wonderfully as you want to. That's something else I hear from my clients a lot, is they have these really big desires for their lifestyle, for the routines they have, for the amount they make, for how they live their lives, and they don't feel like they're fully going after it. What we're going to be talking about today is how you can overcome that fear of going big. And really the reasons that you're not going big, and how to overcome the fear of, what if I'm not good enough? And that's the thing that usually stops you from going all in, or the fear of being seen. All those kinds of things are stopping you. And I think a lot of the time women are very aware that that is what's stopping them. But I think there's 3 big blockers that are kind of behind behind those fears. And all of those fears, the fear of going big, the fear of what if I'm not good enough, the fear of being seen, they kind of fall into three buckets. And the three buckets are very similar. They might be a little intertwined. They're very sneaky. But I have found that if women are not going all in on their goals, there's usually one of these three gaps going on, if not a couple, which is no big deal, and we'll talk about it. And I shared some of this very, very high level on my stories the other day. And I got so much response. I got so many women reaching out and saying, that is my fear. That is what's going on. This is what's happening. And so I just wanted to expand a little bit more on what I had shared there so that you can use it to your advantage and hopefully go the hell all in on yourself. The three blockers that are in the way of you going all in could be 1, 2, or 3 of these things. Number 1 is a worthiness gap. And I'm going to explain all of these. A worthiness gap. Number 2, I have seen a lot with my clients, is a self-belief gap. And number 3 is the self-trust gap. And they're all a little intertwined. Some people will starkly know what's what for them, and others may have been, you might feel a little bit of each, which isn't a problem because I got you. They're also solvable. What I really want you to know with all of this, I don't want to just point out these things and then be like, oh, you have this gap, bye. No, these are all really, really solvable and they're not a problem. And I've seen women clear them up so quickly. Just actually, someone who has been in Audacious for all of a whopping week, not even, messaged me and she was saying, I just feel enough already. I feel so enough and nothing's changed. I feel so good and it's incredible. And thank you. And they're solvable. They're solvable really fast. And I'll just say, if you are experiencing any one of these gaps and you're sick of playing small, you're sick of succeeding with your comfort zone, you want to go big, you want to have a life where you're just honestly amazed by what you've done, how you're living, who you are, and you want to have, solve one of these gaps, join my self-paced course, Audacious. It is so good. There's so much in there to help you overcome these things. And like I said, they help you overcome them really fast. I don't care if you've been struggling with these things for your entire life, for years, and it just seems so deep. You've tried everything. Audacious is going to clean it up, as you just saw, within a week for one of those clients. And so go ahead, join. We have the link in the show notes, or at least we should, for joining Audacious. But let's keep going into each of these gaps so you can identify and start moving through it. Taking a quick break so that you can hear from my clients. I love what I've created with my clients and what they've been able to do from our coaching, but I don't want you to just take my word for it. Here's what some of my clients have had to say while working together.
Working with Mackenzie is one of the coolest, most fun and amazing experiences I've had. I absolutely adore her as a person and as a coach. She's the type of coach that really focuses on the coaching aspect. She's going to dig really freaking deep with you. She won't let you play small, especially the longer you get to know her and she gets to know you. She'll catch on to your patterns, and whether that's your excuses or your habits, whatever traps you might fall into, let's say, she'll be able to hone in on that and notice what's really happening below the surface so you can finally address it, finally start to move through that and experience so much growth because of that level of coaching.
Let's start with the worthiness gap. So in the worthiness gap, if you're experiencing this and that's why you're not going all in, you might not feel worthy just simply of going all in. Whether it's not worthy of the money, not worthy of the success, the exposure. Usually it's a flavor of you don't feel like who you are is good enough to go all in, is good enough to create what you want. And I'm going to keep going into each of these. But the self-belief gap might seem similar, is you don't believe in yourself or your abilities. You don't think that you'll be able or you're capable of hitting the goal, of handling the success. You don't think you can create that success if you go all in and go after it. Don't think you'll hit your goals. That's the self-belief gap. And the self-trust gap is you don't trust yourself enough to go for it. You don't trust you can handle the failure. You don't trust yourself to do what you're going to say you're going to do. And the language I hear a lot around this is, I don't keep my promises to myself. I consistently say I'm going to do something and I don't do it. That's kind of the self-trust one. And let me give a couple examples of each. For example, you might believe you can create the success you want, but you don't trust you'll be able to handle it. That's probably a self-trust gap. Or something very common is that people spiral when they're not experiencing the external validation they want. And what happens as a result is they change the feelings they have about themselves. That's more of a self-worth gap. And it might be a self-belief gap too, depending on the situation. And I just want to walk through kind of the logic I'm using there. Is that if you're going to change how you feel about yourself as a result of let's say a lack of external validation, you're going to feel like you're not enough. If you hear the phrase not enough come up in your brain, it is likely a self-worth gap versus the self-belief gap. If you're just not believing in your abilities, you don't think you're capable of creating it, think more capability when it comes to the self-belief gap, at least in terms of my definition, then you don't think you'll hit your goals. That's more of the self-belief. And to give you even more flavor to help you decipher which is which, and again, it might be both, and that's truly it's not a problem. I just want you to know that these are not problems, even if you've struggled your whole life, even if you're on an entirely different life path, or you're not as far as you expected, or you're just unhappy. Like, it's so solvable, and that's what I want every person in the world to know. But really, I definitely want you to know listening to this is they're so solvable and they can be solved so fast. My clients do such incredible things because no one's just showed them how to solve it before. And I do it inside of my course, Audacious. But let me break it down. So if you're having thoughts more of the flavor of, I just don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm special enough. I just don't think who I am as a person is going to be the kind of person who can create what I want, whether it's like $50,000 months or moving abroad or living that lifestyle where you see, when you see girls who are just like, they're always out with their friends, they're always doing things and they just seem so happy. You don't think it can be you. If you have the idea of it can't be me, that is most definitely a worthiness gap versus, and again, there might be some overlay and that's okay. A self-belief gap is more of, I am so good at what I do. I know I'm incredible. I know I've got this down. I believe in myself. I really genuinely think that I can do it, but there's just part of me that feels like it's far away, or that I can't figure it out, or I just feel like if I go after it, I'm not going to be capable of doing it. And I'm afraid to find out if that's true. That's a little bit more of the self-belief gap. Even though you're saying you believe in yourself, if some part of you is not on board with the idea that you can create it, and that's why you're not going after it, that is still, I'm not saying a self-belief gap means you don't have, let me say this all around. If you have a worthiness gap, it doesn't mean that ultimately you don't feel worthy as a person. If you have a self-belief gap, it doesn't mean you don't have self-belief. If you have a self-trust gap, it doesn't mean that you don't trust yourself. It's not that binary of a yes or no. It's just there's room for improvement there to help you go all in. I want to be so clear on that. So that's what I want you to know, but that's the self-belief gap. Is it might sound like you have self-belief, and you do. You fucking believe in yourself. I know that. But you might not believe in yourself enough to believe that you can go after it, that you can create it. And so those are the two that are a little trickier. So I wanted to dive into that. And to give another example is going back to the examples, you might not trust yourself to go all in because you've tried in the past and failed. I see that one a lot. So you don't feel like you're worthy or capable. That one might be all three. So let me break that one down too. So you might not trust yourself to go all in because you've tried in the past and failed. That's the self-trust aspect. And so now you don't feel worthy. That's the worthiness, or that you're capable of doing it because of the failure. That could be the self-belief. So it might be all three. And again, they're all solvable, and they're solvable. I'm going to be honest, within a few conversations, within a few Audacious videos, within literally one one-to-one call with me. It's so easy when you're in my world. And I just want you to know that you don't have to keep feeling this way. You don't have to keep playing small, none of it. So these are the questions I would be asking myself to see if I have either one of these gaps if I were struggling to go all in. For the worthiness gap, I would sit with the question, Is there resistance around me feeling good enough to create this or go after this? Do I feel right now, as is, without changing a single hair on my head, worthy of having this? Would going after this or creating this give me potential feelings of imposter syndrome? So if I created it, would I be freaking out? Would I be worried that I'm not good enough? All of that. That is the question I'd be sitting with around the worthiness gap. And the question that people often, I've seen so many times on the internet for worthiness is, if this popped in my lap today, would I feel worthy of having it? And you know what? If $500,000 just plopped in my lap this month, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be mad about it. If Drake all of a sudden slid in my DMs and was interested, my boyfriend's well aware of my thoughts here. Would I say no? Nope, I wouldn't. That's my hall pass. So I don't think that's a good question. I think it's more around the question of, do I feel like who I am, there's just something about me that's not good enough to be able to go after this, to be able to have the life that I want, to be able to have the goals, all of that. That's more of the question I would ask around the worthiness gap. The question I would ask myself for self-belief: do I think I'm capable right now, as is, again, without changing a single thing about me, of creating what I want if I decided this was the goal right now in the time frame I'm wanting? That's the other sneaky thing, is that I see people a lot of the time be like, yeah, of course I can create that. I believe I can create that. But if you really dig in, they don't believe they can create it right now. So that again is the self-belief gap. So if you set this goal that you're wanting, that you're dreaming of, that that keeps popping in your head when I talk about these things around going all in, do you think if you went all in right now, you would be capable of creating it? And I mean it. Like, you would make the decision right now, not just the theoretical, like a truly, today is the day I'm going to make this decision. And let's say I have a month to create it. I have 3 months to create it, whatever it is. Do I think I can do it? And not theoretically, like truly, if I put my all in, do I think I can create that? That's the self-belief gap. For the self-trust question that I would ask myself, it would be this: if I decided to go all in right now, do I trust myself to take the actions I know I need to take? Do I trust myself to do the things that I say I'm going to do? Do I trust myself to keep my word to myself? And on a different note, but still within the self-trust realm, do I trust myself to have my own back going after this and treating myself well if things don't go as planned? So what I see a lot of the time is that people will go after things, but if they don't keep their word to themselves, they immediately jump into shame. Or if they don't hit it, or if they don't do all the things that they said they were going to do in that, because of maybe a worthiness gap or self-belief gap, they turn on themselves. And I think such an important, if you just think of trusting another person, something that comes up, at least in my brain, is I trust this person to have my back. I trust this person to not hurt me. I trust this person to love me, right? If you're thinking romantic relationships, whatever. And I want you to think that about yourself. Do you trust yourself to have your own back? Do you trust yourself to still be kind to yourself, to still love yourself? And that's where the self-trust one gets, I think, a little murkier for people. So those are the questions I would be asking myself. And the other thing I want to drop for you is just more general questions for you to work through why you're not going all in. Number one, where is my resistance coming from? Because that's what it is. You have resistance towards it. Where is it coming from? 2, why don't I feel like it's safe to go all in and play big? 3, why don't I feel like I'm good enough to have this or capable of creating this? And 4, I do a 4. If I failed, would this change how I see myself and why? Those are the questions to sit with. And again, all 3 might be intertwined. You might have a self-trust gap because of a worthiness gap, for example. And these gaps are so solvable. I don't care what's happened in your life, how many times you failed, how big your goal is. It doesn't matter who you are. These are things that you can overcome so rapidly inside of my course, Audacious. Inside of one-to-one as well, if you're like, I want to work with you every single day and talk to you every single day about these things, then they're solvable in both. And you can very much not ever have the underlying fear again of, what if I don't create what I want? And that, again, going back to how we started this episode, that's really the fear that drives so many, is this underlying fear of, what if I don't create what I want? We will solve that so quickly together when you're in my world. And so if this episode really spoke to you, if you want to go so much deeper on these things, this is just barely scratching the surface, then come join my self-paced course, Audacious. It is all about you going audacious, going all in, becoming the person with that unshakable confidence, the steady, unshakable self-trust, and the unapologetic self-worth that is so needed for you to create everything that you are wanting. So you can go check it out with the link in the show notes, and I'll catch you on the next episode.